I'm going to be leading us through just kind of how the learning conversations flow right into basically our database, whatever it is that you're using. In this case, I think we've recommended that you use a spreadsheet, one of the spreadsheets that we created. And so my goal today is to get you to understand how to flow all that information, all those learning conversations into a spreadsheet. But then if we have time, I'm going to utilize a whiteboard and show you an exercise that you can implement when you start bringing people together. All right, my question. How many of you have driven down Blackstone towards downtown? Good. Almost everybody. Great. When you look at the skyline, what is the first building you see?
Security buildings?
All right, Security Bank building. Raise your hand if that's the first thing you see. Okay. Anybody else? What is another building you see? Okay.
The county jail.
Boom. All right, so the very first building that's actually closest to Blackstone is the Fresno County Jail. It's a big old block with small windows. It was actually designed to not catch your attention. And so what it does is it projects everything else that is behind it. Some of us that have stories, usually that's the first building we see. And so we have inner insight. Sometimes when we're doing community work, there are things that we miss that should be in front of us. The more we go into the middle of the city, sometimes we get distracted by the things that we favor and not the things that are right in front of us. Let me just paint another picture, okay? In Fresno, we have had, whether it's community builders, whether it's artists, whether it's, you name it. There's a lot of tribalism that happens. Tribalism basically means that there's small groups that do what they do, but they don't want to collaborate. You can see this with artists, you can see this with the tattoo shops. I do MMA, and so you see that even with MMA gyms. When you go to other big cities, they create alliances, networks, coalitions, because their urban context is a lot more complex and more expanded. Fresno is more of an island. And you'll see that even with gangs, it's like there's no structure. It's just their little place, their little place, their little place. Everybody is almost like a little group to themselves. But we're better together. The reason this is special is because this is not just a grant. Yeah, this is bigger than that. We're a part of a history in our city where all of you guys, our kingdom come will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So that means we have a responsibility as individual tribes, but also as this collaborate to actually make that a reality in our city. In Fresno, we're so used to just kind of servicing people. All right, so there's there's those that provide stuff for the poor, which is absolutely necessary. But there's another part that we are missing. So we got the collaboration going, but what we're doing actually is we're looking for people who would be what I call social arsonists. And I actually borrowed that term from Fred Ross, the guy who trains us at Chavez. He talks about social arsonism. What is social arsonism? Can somebody give me a response, maybe what you think it is? It's okay if you're wrong, and it's okay if you're right. What is it?
Setting the society on fire.
Yeah. Okay. Good. No, that's good. You're going in the right direction. Go ahead.
I don't know, maybe like a trailblazer for community?
Kind of a trailblazer, but it's. I'm gonna go here because I don't want to run out of time. It's what you're saying, but it's reverse. A social arsonist is not someone that burns buildings down, even though if you are young or old, sometimes that's fun, right? Just watching the fire go and just crumble everything. When we talk about social arsonism, we're saying having a conversation with somebody, and we're asking Socratically, we're asking the questions that are digging deeper, deeper. Sometimes they get pissed, sometimes they snap, but you keep asking the question, and you say, why are you so angry, bro? I'm just asking you a question, I want to know. But you go deep down inside, and what happens is the combination of pain, trauma, whatever it is, all the ingredients are there. They just need that person to go right into their heart and just go. All of a sudden it just goes, blam, their hearts are on fire. Okay? You guys are social arsonists. Maybe you got to exercise the muscle a little more, but you are social arsonists. And can you imagine when you bring all these heads together to be social arsonists as a team in different parts of the city? What do you think is going to happen? What you said? You set the city on fire. Big, giant, burning bush. Imagine that. planting a burning bush in the middle of the city so that everybody else can see and hear that calling. It's more than a grant. It is a calling. It is a mission. And that is why we are here, and that is why we are investing, is not necessarily to meet these numbers. And so, with that said, learning conversations, they're the fundamental building block of community organizing. They build relationships. You build trust with the community. You're forcing the resident to think about all of the resources that they probably didn't think they had. Go deeper and deeper into their heart as you ask your questions. Okay? And then the last thing is when you bring those people together and they realize that they share a common bond, that fire translates. And then the room gets full, and you can sense it, you can feel it. Some of us that have been doing this work have seen it all the time. So the work that we do is not just serving what they need, it's setting them on fire so that they can join the team or that they can be a part of the movement and start basically setting the city on fire. Learning conversations are the building block of community organizing, but they are also spiritually the technique that we use to set people aflame. How are learning conversations going for you? Sorry, and I just threw a bunch. You guys, all right, go ahead.
So I feel like we had our first really successful community meeting, but it was driven by the learning conversation. Stray dogs were the #1 issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just saw that the power in these conversations can drive these meetings and get the feedback and the participation. So I was just, that was kind of a
I like that. I like that. Someone else? Yes?
So for our neighborhood, we use our community conversations to try to focus, like obviously like you said, there's these focuses where it needs help. So ours is the traffic safety.
Mm-hmm.
So we've taken that and we've been able to work out a plan of what that looks like. We've done the play streets. We're doing blockheads where we're finding a resident that lives on a particular street, either Bulge, Huntington, or one of the streets that live from their neighborhood, and assigning in that area so that they can not promote, but like get to know the neighborhood. And if there's other issues, there's like that one person you can go to that lives on that particular street. So it's just another way of trying to.
But learning conversations, again, they're not to find out how you can, they're not necessarily to find out how you can serve the people. They're about how you can empower the people, okay? There's a big difference. If you see, how many of you have seen the movie Mad Max? I'm gonna bring it up. There's a scene where the Lord of the colony is seen as this great one, a hero. He's actually the evil villain in the movie. But he controls the water, right? And he only gives water to the people on a certain time at a certain day. And when he gives them water, like all these people that are dehydrated and died of the poor at the bottom of the mountain, he's at the top and he pulls a lever and all this water comes out and everybody praises him. He's kind of gatekeeping that water. And all he does is he serves them. And the people are completely disempowered. And they depend on the water supply. We're trying to move away from that. Okay? We've done that kind of work too long. What we need is learning conversations that set people on fire so that if you watch the movie, right, there's these outcast type of people running around with gasoline cars and they're kind of seen as not royal, but they're the ones that actually deliver the people from that. They empower and the people and they create an army. That's the kind of work we're trying to do. We're not trying to get people dependent on us. We're trying to get people to learn how to fight for themselves, how to advocate for themselves. Okay, so learning conversations is the key. Thank you, sir. Perfect. All right, are you guys familiar with this sheet? Let me ask a question. How is this sheet working for you? And be honest. Please. Maybe two people. Yeah.
That was a spreadsheet. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think for me, it keeps the people, how would I say, certain things that they said were like triggers to help me remind, like, oh, okay, this is what this person looked like.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I was at when this person said this, so that way I can have like a reference to, okay, that's Miss such and such that went over there. So that's what it does for me. It helps me remember that conversation and how it went.
Perfect.
In particular.
Thank you.
I mean, to me, it burns my eyes.
Great. So the positives is it's giving you a database. It's keeping track of every encounter. It's mining. It's like taking the inventory of each individual's gifts and talents and also their concerns. All right, great. And then the challenges is someone said that it's what was that?
Burns your eyes.
It burns your eyes. How many feel like it burns your eyes?
Me.
Okay, I have a master's degree and I look at it and I get a headache. I'm like, ooh. What I do want to say is, again, learning conversations are the fundamental building block of community organizing. They're not the fundamental building block of direct service, just pouring water at the people so they can depend on us. They're the fundamental building block of setting people on fire. And when you have a flame, and you put all those flames together, it creates a what? A bond, B-O-N-D, fire, bonfire, right? So, all right, learning conversations, you talk to somebody, like, please try not to be super structured, following every single point on the survey. Those, if you think of stairways, and then like the rail, you don't need the rail. You can walk up the stairs, but the rail is there to guide you. So I want you to look at the learning conversation structures in that way. Don't read it to the people. Look at it yourself and then put it in your own words so that they can sense that you're not just a robot, but so they can sense that you are a social arsonist, or they become. When I say Socratic method, this guy's asking deep questions. It's a way of helping them learn by asking them questions. So if you have an opinion, don't tell them your opinion. Nobody likes to hear your opinion. But if you turn that opinion into a question, people love talking about themselves. So then they'll start doing it. And what you're doing is you're sort of sneaking into their head and heart. So make sure that you treat the questions as a rail. And honestly, sometimes you have a little bit of time. And I know that there's like 1,000,003 questions on the list. Look at the questions, highlight them. The questions that are absolutely necessary. And if you have time to ask all of them, please do it. But at least get those questions that you're going to need to ask them. Some of those are, of course, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. But find the right moment to cut them off. Some people like me just talk forever, you know? So you got to be able to cut them off politely at the right time. And usually what I do is, hey, I have another question, right? That's a good one. Like, this is exciting. I have another question. Transition. Like, what are the things, the questions that I usually emphasize? I usually say, what is the top thing? Because if you say that, what are the things, they're going to give you a laundry list. And you're going to have to, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be putting 102 like things in there. I just want one thing. The top thing that you're willing to fight for or even die for. Like, what is it? Let them tell you. All right? What are the things you love? What are your talents? And then who would you do it with? If you were going to change this neighborhood, who would you? Now you're putting the ball in their court. Because when you come in asking those questions, they think you're a genie. They're like, oh yes, you know, like, the genie's here. He said he's going to give me 3 wishes. And then when nothing happens in the neighborhood, they're like, why didn't you do anything? And then in your mind, as the organizer, who would you do it with? Actually, that's your responsibility. Right? That's very important because they become aware of their connectivity to the neighborhood as well. If you ask them, who in the neighborhood would you do it with? And they're like, they're going to be forced to think. And I've had so many residents say, you know, I don't really know my neighbors. There's an issue right there. You may not have to point it out to them, but at least you write that down. You say, oh, lack of connectivity. All right, so then you ask all these questions. You put them into your database. And when you feel like you have a good amount, and I would say about 30 or more, if you guys want to create a more simpler version, I'll leave some business cards here. Just give me a call and I'll try to help you. But I tried to apply my technique to this complex spreadsheet. Sorry, y'all. Don't mean to. It's not belittling. I'm just speaking facts. What I did is I created a color code system with categories that are broad. Streets. That's pretty broad. It involves freeways, streets, alleys, all of that. Rental property. That's anything from the slum house to the projects over here. There's issues happening there, all right? crime. But for this, what do you like the least? That's the big category. And then you got all these comments that you guys entered. If you want it to be easy on the eyes, you color code them based on, you don't have to follow this, you can create your own. But color code it so that you know what the prevailing issue is. And the more you do that, what you end up doing is this, because learning conversation isn't an end to itself, and setting people aflame, that's not an end to itself. The goal is to set people aflame, and then all the people who have the flame, whether it's here or like the saints, you know, and the paintings with the little flame on the top, you bring those people together. And when you bring them together, you're going to ask the same questions in the learning conversations at the beginning, pair them up. Because what happens is, you have people with flames and their neighbors, but they have absolutely no idea that they have other people that share the same concerns, because we live in a hyper-individualistic society where people are disconnected not only from each other, but from the land, from God, and from themselves. They just work, come home, watch TV, and repeat it. You know, and eat, use the restroom, all the other stuff that people have to do. But that's just a cycle. And so when you set people aflame, that's great. But it's not over there. It's not over yet. Then you bring them together, and then someone's like, I break them up into pairs, and I say, so what is the issue you care about? And you say, the slum house down the street. And then you guys are talking, no, that's my concern. So now there's synergy. That flame is coming. It's grouping, right? And then I open up to large group. All right, everybody, what did you hear from your neighbors? And then this person stands up, and they're like, yeah, so I'm tired of that slum house. And then these guys jump up, me too. And then they're, me too. Because what you did is they don't know that you did your research and that you highlighted each individual and that they share the same concern. They have no idea because they're fragmented relationally. Now, when you bring them together, all those flames get excited, and boom, what you have is an explosion in the room. And then people feel like they're ready to take on the world. And then you got to tell them, hey, chill out. Like, tranquila, right? Take it, like Christian said, take a deep breath, right? So that's what you're going to have to do, because what it's going to happen is they feel so powerful, they're going to say, let's take down the president. Girl, you ain't even put a stop sign in your neighborhood. You want to take the president down. All right, let's start small. In our next training, hopefully, what I can do is help you guys transition from that part of bringing people together to actually brainstorming and how to put their concerns on that whiteboard. I was planning to do that, but I'm kind of long-winded. I have a preacher in me, you know what I mean? When people discover that they're not alone, that's so empowering, isn't it? That's so empowering. And so the goal of learning conversations, yes, it's to collect data because someone's giving us money, right? But it's also, it's bigger than that. It's finding people who care enough to act and setting a little flame in their hearts. But it doesn't end there. The next step is taking those flames, bringing them together so there's an explosion. Then when the explosion happens, you have to control the explosion a little bit and say, chill out, y'all, chill out. All right? Let's start stairs. Let's start with something small. Stop sign in the neighborhood. Okay, stop sign. Now I know, after that's over, I know my council member. I know how to run a meeting with, Public Works. I know how to make phone calls to the right people. I made a lot of mistakes, called the wrong people, but now I know where to go. And so you take that first step. And then when that stop sign comes in, it's more than just a stop sign in the neighborhood. It's a victory. All right, and then people get addicted. They start getting addicted. Like, all right, man, we put a stop sign there. What do we do next? All right, let's put a playground in our park. And then you start doing the work. And then you take that second step. You're a little bit bigger, right? And then you want something. Okay, now let's do something about the slum housing. Take that step. Now you already have relationships with everybody. You had victories. Your council members are like, hey, these people are knocking stuff out. I want to work with them. Because if you take that step, and pretty soon might get me elected next time. Take down the president. No, I'm just kidding. Don't take him down. He's got a military. But whatever your spirituality is, let it guide, not your words, because you'll turn people away. Religion has just killed everything. Let it guide your intentions. Let it guide your care and concern. Because check this out. Sometimes you get people, bro. There's 3 types of people that you'll interact with. The people that know what they want for the community, and they're rare. But you'll find them. They'll be like, I know what we want. All right? Those people already have a flame. You could just fan it. Number two, there are people that know what they, that have that desire, but they don't know it yet. And that's where the social arsonist is very effective, because all the components are there, but nobody has put them together like a little pile of leaves. Okay? And then lastly, there's people that don't care. Don't waste your time on people that don't care, but people that do and people that don't know yet, those are the people that you found that flame. Okay, I'm going to close with this. The reason I brought up the spirituality piece is because you're going to run into a lot of broken people. I feel like the whole world's broken. We're living in times where everybody's identity has just been butchered by the media, by consumerism, by everything. And you will run into people and you'll see their insecurities. When you dig deep, you'll start feeling barricades, okay? And it's not about challenging those barricades. It's about using that spiritual, pastoral kind of perspective. I've had so many people who were insecure, just through those questions, have broken down in tears. And you gotta find a way, and this is where I can't give you a framework, but your spirituality can. And when that spirituality goes into that moment, I think that's a huge part of the flame that you're using to set them on fire. So do not be afraid to flow with your spirituality in your learning conversations. Thank you.